Hey, hey. What's happening, good people? Good people reachable via the interwebs. Hopefully, y'all are doing very, very well today. I am Soul Expression, the humblest of hosts of the Inner Storyteller, the podcast. And welcome in. Please like the video, subscribe to the channels. I do want to one day monetize this podcast, and I cannot do so if the good people of the world, reachable via the interwebs, do not help me via the thumbs up and the subscribe. If you are here, if you are subscribed, then you are in for real conversations about natural law, religion, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the great, money, anarchy, culture, and how mankind is manipulated from the shadows by forces that do not have our best interests at heart, likely because they are completely evil. And I say we talk about religion, the good, the bad, and the ugly, but we are not bashing faith systems on this channel. We are simply examining the psychological affects and effects of the stories we have the most faith in, the ones we have the most stake in, and how those stories help shape society. That examination sits right alongside an honest look at the current condition of the human family, which is slavery. Government is slavery, good people. And the question we have to keep coming back to is what can actually be improved with a proper understanding of the inner storyteller and how it works. And if any of that makes you a little uneasy, makes you a little angry, or just makes you uncomfortable in any way, please be assured and reassured, rest assured and reassured that although you are 100,000 million billion trillion percent encouraged to stay and confront those feelings, you are also welcome to leave at any time as soon as you like the video. Can't leave without liking the video. You're stuck with me unless you like the video. Now, as you all can see from the thumbnail and the title of the video, today we are talking about the threshold, okay? Hoarding wealth and the religion of monetary value. And we're not going to spend a lot of time speculating on how billionaires make their billions, what exactly happens behind the scenes when someone who is, 100 millionaire via retail and business investments and stock options and whatnot suddenly starts just climbing until they get to the billions and then tens of billions and hundreds of billions and in Elon Musk's situation, trillions of dollars, right? It's insane to me that Elon Musk is now technically on paper worth like 1.7 trillion dollars, but which means 1 trillion 700 billion, by the way. And 1 billion is unimaginable to someone who's not a 100 millionaire, right? It's not a reality that we can conceptualize as people who make 50, $60,000 a year. We can't even imagine. We can imagine experiences, but we cannot imagine making $1 billion a year every year. We definitely can't imagine making 100 billion, let alone a trillion and 700 billion every year. Regardless, we are not going to speculate how these people get to their spots. We're not going to go too much into, deep state activities and whatnot. We are simply going to talk about the threshold, okay? Because there is a point, at least in the, current and long-standing banking system, where you don't have to work, you don't have to create, you don't have to risk, and you don't have to do anything but have a certain amount of money in the bank, in the banking system. And through the lowest of interest rates, you would be able to live an extremely lavish lifestyle, an extremely luxurious lifestyle, take as many trips, have as many experiences, hire as many helping hands as you want, and you would never have to work again. And anything above that threshold, which is nowhere near $1 trillion, it's you reach this threshold before you can imagine the lifestyle of 100 billionaire. Um, what the anything that you make above the threshold, okay, and that you make every year and you hoard to yourself is simply a power move. It's not anything that you'll be able to do with on this earth, that your kids will be able to do with anything. They won't be able to do anything with it because it's just too much. There's not enough to spend it on. There's not enough. So I want to talk about something today that does not require a lot of speculation, as I've said. It only requires a little arithmetic. Okay? If you do math the old school way, you're going to love this episode. If you do math the new school way, where you got to make boxes and do all of that kind of stuff, well, you might have to watch this twice. Before we get into anything philosophical, anything esoteric, or talk about the collective inner storyteller or anything like that, I want to show you guys a number, a simple number, a small number to some, not to most of us, a pretty big number to most of us. Because once you see this number clearly, a lot of what we talk about on this channel stops feeling abstract and starts to feel like simple, observable reality. So let's get into it. First, let's start where most people are actually living right now, the housing market. Okay? The housing market. Um, the housing market has become close to impossible for an entire generation to enter into. Renting alone is a serious financial strain in most American cities. Families, people with jobs, people working full time, are living in their cars. Families, more than one child sometimes. They're living in motels. They pay for a certain amount of time in a motel and then just re up after that time runs out. They use gym memberships for the shower and for hygiene access because they can't afford stable housing. And this is not a fringe story, by the way. If you look at that one channel, a Homestead Journeys YouTube channel, she has anecdotal story after anecdotal story after anecdotal story. She has hours of content of people on TikTok and Instagram sharing their short stories about this right here. Being homeless, a lot of times by choice, and not being able to afford, housing, and not understanding why rent and other costs are so far away from the wages that we can get while working. Now, this is being reported across the country, right? Finding a living wage in your actual field, the thing that you trained for, what you are interested in, the thing that you may have a degree or some sort of certification in, is becoming its own impossible task more and more. People are now choosing between accepting what amounts to wage slavery, not even amounts to, what is wage slavery, or just staying unemployed while they search for something that pays enough to survive on, if they have time to do real searching. And even when people try to improve their own situation, right? They go back to school, they get some sort of additional training, and they take on debt to do so, taking on debt to increase their earning potential. The math does not work for them, right? The the debt that they accrue does not balance with the increase in pay that they may be afforded, that they may be able to find. The increase in pay doesn't outweigh the cost of the investment in the training, plus the years of interest on the debt that funded it. And on top of that, we are taxed, right? Big Sis says this is not a coincidence. And she is 100% right. We are taxed in a way that makes saving close to impossible for the average worker, right? And inflation makes it even worse. And here's the thing: inflation is a reason, is is a legitimate piece of the puzzle that we do need to be raising hell about. But inflation is not the deepest reason. The deeper reason is why I say I want to show you a number. Okay? This number is the threshold. That's why the title is the threshold of this video. And here's the number. Very simple. If you make, no, excuse me, if you have, okay, if you possess $100 million sitting in the banking system, in your accounts, or in an account, some sort of low risk, interest bearing holding, okay, then treasury yields, dividend equities, simple deposits, stuff like that, right? You have $100 million sitting in an account at a conservative 3 to 5% return. The money that you get that they call interest for allowing the bank to loan your money out to other people. At a conservative 3 to 5% return, you earn somewhere between $3 and $5 million a year doing nothing. No labor, no risk, no creation. You don't have to create anything. No contribution to society. Just having the money existing and being, allowing the bank to loan it out, it compounds. $3 to $5 million a year is yours just because you have $100 million sitting in the account. Now, obviously, I'm not talking to you out there to say if you have $100 million because that's unreachable for most Americans. What I'm saying is, well, let me not jump ahead of myself. Stay with me. Okay. If you have 100 million, you earn $3 to $5 million a year. At 300 million, the same conservative yield, the same small time interest rate produces $9 to $15 million a year. Okay, $300 million sitting in the bank produces for you $9 to $15 million a year compounding. And you could spend $9 to $15,000 every year if you so choose and not lose 1 cent of what you have control of in your account. Keep those numbers in mind. Let that sit for a quick sec. Okay, because where I'm going makes sense, and it's you're not gonna have to wonder why I'm talking to little old you, little old me about hundreds of $1 million in the bank. You'll see where I'm going. $9 to $15 million a year, every year, forever. As long as the banking system is what it is, without working another day in your life. You could have rooftop dinners every single night, private chauffeur for every car that you own, as many trips as you could ever want to take, and re-trips. You get to really know the guide out there in the Dominican Republic. You get to learn the language of the people, right? As much help as you could ever want to hire in your estate, as many cooks, as many um, uh, gardeners and hands out making the place look pretty and keeping it dust free as you want to hire. And you can pay them well. You pay them living wages. A life of total material abundance. And the principle meaning the financial principal. This is a currency term. The principal never goes down because the yield alone, $9 to $15 million coming in every year just because of the interest rate, keeps it above. That's the threshold. Okay. Past that point, and really, really, it's about $100 million a year because at $100 million a year, at 4% interest, you get $4 million a year doing nothing. If you can spend consistently $4 million every year, I don't even know what you're doing. Nobody knows what you're doing. But regardless, I put it at the 300 million mark because there's definitely nobody out there that I know that's spending $15 million a year without doing so on purpose. Okay, like trying their best to just put as much currency out into the market as possible. So past that point of $300 million sitting in the bank, hoarding additional wealth has really no defensible purpose related to personal need, comfort, security, or even generational legacy. There's nothing that your kids can do with $1 trillion. I'm getting there. Every dollar accumulated past that threshold is no longer about survival. It's no longer about abundance. It's no longer about safety. What it's about is power, control, the ability to shape markets, to buy elections, to write the narratives for school children, school aged children, and shift or mold entire industries simply by the force of your own capital. That is what anything over that threshold provides someone. And we're not talking about people, sitting at 100 to $300 million. We are talking about people sitting at the tens of billions of dollars, the hundreds of billions of dollars, right? And as of last week, I said Elon Musk is the first human being on Earth to cross $1 trillion. And again, little old us with our $50,000 to $80,000 a year, we can't even cognize, imagine what it's like to earn $1 billion a year. Tens and hundreds of as a matter of fact, let me detour real quick. How many billionaires live in America? There, y'all get somebody take a guess in the comments. Don't use Google. Tell me how many billionaires are in the United States? How many do you think? Somebody put it in the comments. I got 2 live viewers here. Just take a guess, a gander, a random gander. Don't cheat, please. And I have the right answer up, so I'll know if you cheated. And if you just know, then you just know. How many billionaires do you think are in the United States of America? Live here. That's the question that I asked. We definitely have more billionaires than anyone else in the world. I'll tell you that much for free. What do you think? I'll give it about. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So we got, I really don't know. That's fair. And we got 25. 989 billionaires. 989 billionaires live in America. Keep that number in mind too. So Elon is now a trillionaire, right? $1 trillion at even a conservative yield produces tens of billions of dollars a year in pure passive return. Okay? That's not wealth, people. That is a different category of existence. That's a different dimension, a different plane of existence. right? Available to a number of people that you can count without running out of five fingers. Okay? Control enough wealth to end almost all major problems that are, 99% financially caused. And it all comes down to the religion of monetary value, the mother of all religions in the world of man, the religion of monetary value. Okay. Of course, if you are unfamiliar with said term, um, I don't know if I came up with the term the religion of monetary value, but I use it a lot, and I don't think it came from uh Mark Passio, who I get a lot of my little phrasings from. But the religion of monetary values simply means that monetary value only exists by way of belief system and obedience, right? Because even if you don't believe that it exists, if you're obedient to it, then you're participating or subscribing in some way to the religion. As am I. We can't help it. All right. But that's what it comes down to. And this channel, my channel, does not subscribe to the religion of monetary value. We know here that there's no such thing as what's called monetary value. There's such thing as value, okay? And we've invented something called money, but there's no real such thing as monetary value. It's a made up, arbitrary, and ever changing. Look at the graphs. Um, Measurement tool that is a religion. So it works the same way a religion does, with its clergy and its origin story and its influence on the public's minds, right? And we've talked about this many times. Money is a story, it's a symbol. Symbols carry stories. Energy is the real currency. Labor, thoughts, intellectual property, ideas and whatnot, and labor, okay, and then like inventions and whatnot, possessions, is the real currency. The number in the account is a representation of accumulated human labor, human attention to your ideas or to ideas in general, and compliance. It's not a real fundamental natural thing found in nature, right? Or measurement of something found in nature. It's not that. But we have to acknowledge and we have to speak honestly within the paradigm of the religion of monetary value because the majority of the world is currently living inside that paradigm. Within that paradigm, where it's where monetary value is treated as measurable, real, and determinative of life's outcomes, there exists this threshold that most people have never been really shown. A point past which all additional accumulation provides no increase in genuine human flourishing for the person or even family controlling said wealth or amount, controlling said accumulation. The math is not complicated, good people. It's just rarely shown to people in a way that they can really understand it. Because when you talk about the problem of billionaires or um, the enabling that billionaires do, right? It's hard to it's hard to really conceptualize the impact that even having that amount of wealth hoarded to yourself, like what that actually does in the world. Okay, so let's talk about why hoarding past the threshold is a huge problem in plain language. And it is my position that all billionaires in their silent oh, hope you can still hear me. In their silence, in their excuse me, in their inaction, in a lot of their actual actions. Okay, Peter Thiel, we're talking to you. Bill Gates, we're talking to you. Um, and a whole lot of others, right? in their lack of a spine to use their wealth in ways that are humane and morally correct. All billionaires, bar none, are bad people. Okay, that's my position, and I'm sticking to it, because right now it's still legal to have a position. So people with billions of dollars are not a problem because they are wealthy. They are a problem because of what billions of dollars past that threshold actually represents: silence, inaction, enablement, and in many cases, fake philanthropy, right? Philanthropy that functions more as a tax strategy than anything else, right? It's a way that your reputation can be managed. It's not some sort of philanthropy that results in a redistribution of wealth. Redistribution is of course like a communist Marxist term, but I just mean in general, right? Because we're not communists and Marxists over here either. We're not like what do they say? What's good for the I'm not even gonna anyway. Let's get back into my script before I get too far off here. Silence is what the billionaires do, and it's what they do best. Okay, silence, because the people holding as much capital as $1 billion or more rarely use their platform, their access, or their resources to address any structural conditions producing homelessness, wage stagnation, the housing crisis or crises, or a lack of people's ability to get like medical care. Any of these glaring problems that seem 100% or 98% financially based, built on the foundation of inflation and financial crises, they don't do anything. They don't say anything. They don't propose anything, despite having more of a capacity to meaningfully affect those conditions than any government program currently in place. And let's not forget, the government itself is a trillionaire. Okay, the government is an entity, it is a business, it's a corporation, and it's a trillionaire. It's a trillionaire in a much different capacity because it's a so-called public entity and it has obligations and things that make it so it's not really quote unquote controlling that much on paper, but it is in function. Okay, in action, because hoarding wealth, which means hoarding access to resources, past the threshold while people sleep in their cars a few miles from your properties is a choice. And it's a choice being made every single day, not a circumstance being endured until some better circumstance comes along, right? Enablement, because capital at this scale actively funds and sustains the systems that we've spent months examining on this channel that are directly responsible for the enslavement of the general population. And I say general population like it's prison because that's what we're in. We're in an open air prison. The lobbying structures, the media consolidation, the political donation that results in political domination, right? They keep wealth concentration mechanisms running smoothly for the ultra wealthy. And again, I call it fake philanthropy because the tax advantage, the tax advantage donation to a foundation that the donor's own family continues to control, continues to draw a salary from, and continues to use for influence is not generosity, right? You're just gaining more access. Fake philanthropy is wealth management with slightly better PR. And how do these people even make their money? How do you how do you even get to billions and billions and billions of dollars, right? Is it really possible to, through, selling a product, selling a bunch of products, being in real estate, or being an OnlyFans model or whatever, making a few millions of dollars and then investing that money? Is it really possible to invest your way to $1 billion from, let's say, 2 or 3 million? Is it really, really possible? And I'm sorry I threw that OnlyFans reference in there. I just thought about, people that got a lot of money that, it's a common thing. I'm just kidding, though. I'm just kidding. I don't promote pornography. I'm just saying. They do exist, okay? Um, Nobody becomes a billionaire through clean hands. That's the point. Nobody becomes a billionaire with clean hands. It's not something that really tends to work out. And I'm not saying every billionaire is a criminal in the same way that the worst of the criminals are, right? I'm not saying every single one participates in the same crimes or even promotes them or is even okay with them in their mind. What I'm saying is the structural reality of accumulating that much capital requires connections. It requires deals, relationships that the general public will never see, okay? And would never approve of if they did see it. And somewhere along that path towards billions and billions of dollars, well before you reach billionaire status, there appears to be a point where someone becomes aware of what is and is not acceptable for them to say and do publicly, who they are allowed to endorse for some sort of public office, what they are allowed to endorse as far as products and lifestyle choices, right? You remember how they came at Joe Rogan for him saying that ivermectin is a better choice than remdesivir for treatment of the COVID stuff? You become, and this was he might be he might he let me ask Google, is Joe Rogan a billionaire? Because he wasn't when that happened. Is Joe Rogan a billionaire yet? No, nowhere near. 200 million is his public net worth. So somewhere along the line, somewhere in the trajectory of getting to your billions, you will become aware of what is acceptable and unacceptable to do and say publicly. This is not something that I can hand you a document for. Okay, there's no real paper trail for this, but this is an informed opinion recognized based on a consistent and wide ranging set of testimonies from people who reached extraordinary wealth and influence and then spoke about what they experienced when they got there. Michael Jackson talked extensively about it, although he often did so on tour when he could have a microphone and say what he wanted to the people. Prince talked about it and fought for, I think, over 20 years, like fought for decades, definitely a decade, if not more, over the control of his own name and his his music masters, the track masters from his music, because of what that control system represented. Jim Carrey has spoken about what he's witnessed at the highest levels of fame and money. Kanye West, right? Kanye West repeatedly and publicly at real cost to his career and his, he's a billionaire, or at least he was. I'm sure he's still somewhat close to it. But his reputation and career, they tried to throw those things down the drain from him exposing things like handlers and whatnot, right? Common Sense, the rapper. He's touched on it in his music. The pattern shows up across genres, races, um, decades, like, time eras, and people with no obvious reason to coordinate a shared story. Nothing to gain by exposing this snake in the grass. Yet they share the same story. And when that many independent voices with no clear incentive to lie and significant incentives to stay quiet describe the same mechanism, okay, where they say there's a ceiling of awareness installed into the system of America, the system of making a lot of money regardless of where you are, well before you reach the top, where they inform you of what's permitted and what will happen to you if you go outside of these boundaries, that pattern deserves to be taken seriously as as a pattern, right? Not necessarily proof of something specific. You don't have to tell yourself you know exactly how it happens, but you can say, "Well, I recognize this pattern when I see it," right? And use that as fuel to awaken your mind out of the religion of monetary value altogether, which again is the mother of all religions in the human family, the father of which being the religion of man's authority. What this means for the inner storyteller. So here's where this connects to everything else that we discuss on the channel, right? The collective inner storyteller has been trained to treat extreme wealth as evidence of virtue, as evidence of intelligence and hard work for a lot of people. For some, for others, let's say on the strong political left in America, the collective inner storyteller has been trained to see extreme wealth as automatically evil in one way, right? Regardless, we are also trained to see extreme poverty as evidence of laziness, poor choices, some sort of moral failure or family dynamic that doesn't support making money. Neither of these stories are true, right? That story does enormous work for people holding wealth past the threshold in order for them to stay exactly in their position because it makes the hoarding of the wealth feel earned rather than examined. But the math, okay, doesn't care about that story. So they say numbers don't lie. The math simply shows what is possible at certain thresholds of accumulation. And what continued accumulation past those thresholds actually represents is power and only power. Once you see the number, once you know that $300 million dollars in the bank produces more passive annual income than most people will ever earn through their whole lifetime. Okay, and you get it every year just from having that much in the bank. The story of earned virtue becomes much harder to believe, impossible to sustain without examination and scrutiny. And you won't find one living example of a billionaire without a shady past, shady deals, and silence in regard to what affects us negatively. And this isn't an argument for envy. This isn't an argument for, to say that having wealth is evil, full stop. Not saying that. It's an argument that the inner storyteller of an entire civilization has been trained to not ask the most basic questions, like what is this money actually for? And do you intend to carry out that purpose? Right? What is this money for past the point where it can be provided, past the point where it could provide anything that you would ever need or want? you know, if you have more than you could ever use, than a whole family could ever use, what is it actually for if you're hoarding it? We don't ask that question because we've been trained not to. And that's the point of today's episode, of the threshold episode. That question does not require speculation. It requires a little bit of math and a willingness to examine these questions, and maybe a willingness to ask them out loud. What story are you willing to live? Let me know in the comments. Hoarding masses of resources or masses of money, which is access to resources, becomes a status on its own. That's an unspoken truth. Absolute and toot and lootly. Let me know in the comments what story you are willing to live, good people, and what your favorite part of this video is. And let me know that you liked the video, and you know, let me know everything. Let me know that you subscribe to the channel. Let me know that you're sharing everything and you're being a super good audience member. And I will see you guys tomorrow as I interview or just have a conversation with Miss Red. Very, very excited. So tune into that. And without further ado, peace and love to you and yours.